Hey guys, I'm going to make a couple of points today about temples and red heifers. The red heifer thing has been in the news lately. Again, the speculator community has been all in a tizzy because supposedly a red heifer will soon be introduced that is fit for temple use, and supposedly we are sitting on G waiting on O because of these heifers that are being raised by the Temple Institute. So I want to make 2 points today. Number one, the red heifer passage in the Old Testament, Numbers 19, never stipulates that the heifer must have 100% red hairs in order to be considered clean by God. It doesn't actually say that anywhere in Numbers 19. That is a Jewish tradition, actually a non-biblical Jewish tradition. Secondly, a temple building of God, so a temple of God that's a building made with hands, will never be built ever again. Hebrews 9 and 10 both show that the temple building was a type and shadow of the true temple of God, which is the church, which is actually the body of Christ, and members of the church, his body, are living stones in that temple. Never are we told that that's going to be replaced by a stone building. And then furthermore, Revelation itself, when it talks about the ultimate fulfillment of all these things, it declares there's no need of a temple building because God himself dwells with us. I would ask any pre-tribber, premillennial dispensationalist to tell me otherwise about that. So let's start with the Numbers passage. I'm going to go to it here and I'm going to show you what it says. It's a very short passage. It's the only passage in the Old Testament that talks about this. The Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron. Okay, so we're under the Mosaic law. Speak unto the children of Israel that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein is no blemish, and upon which never came yoke, and give her unto Eleazar, and he'll slay it. Take her blood, sprinkle the blood directly upon the tabernacle of the congregation, then burn the heifer, and you end up with what are called the ashes of the red heifer. So where in this passage does it ever say that the red heifer must have every single hair on its body be the same color? You can't have a white hair or a gray hair. If we're going to talk about colors here, why isn't it stipulating that all of them must be the same red color? I mean, if we're going to be pure, it needs to be every hair is red. And we all know that red heifers, first of all, there's tens of thousands of red cows in the world. It's a common thing. It's a type of cow. It's not like, oh, there's only a few red heifers ever born in a single year or anywhere in the world. No, they're very common. They're actually not red. They're like a burnt orange. I'm going to show you a video here of the Temple Institute. They disappoint the evangelical pre-trib crowd with the sad news that the current red heifers they are trying to raise for the temple, supposedly, disappointingly are not going to be useful.
Shalom, this is Yitzchak Reuven from the Temple Institute. Today is the first day of March 2021. It's the 17th of Adar 5781. And as you can see, I'm standing in front of two. They're kind of hidden at the moment. Two heifers that the Temple Institute is raising here in Israel. And
first of all, let me just point out, you can see from here, see the rump on this guy? Look at the whiteness throughout here, okay? That color there, if you can see my mouse, look at how much different that color is from the color up above. Darkish orange. You got splotches of dark orange throughout here. I mean, if we're talking about color, and it's so important that each cow be exactly perfectly the same color, why aren't these colors considered to be the wrong color?
And I'm giving you an update on their status. The last update was about 7 or 8 months ago, and at the time we had 2 red heifers who were getting very close to the age where they could be converted into the ashes of the red heifer, but they had some white hairs which we hoped would go away. They didn't.
Yeah, they had some white hair. So again, there's nothing that says they can't have white hairs. There's all kinds of light-colored hairs all over these guys. I mean, I can see them from here. You know, I mean, I can't imagine that. Now, again, this is just speculation at this point, but you know, because God never designated a color of any other beast for sacrificial purposes. But, you know, you have to admit that a blemish or a spot on a lamb, when the Israelites had to take a lamb without blemish and without spot during the Passover, the original Passover, were they not allowed to have one that had any stray dark hairs in it? It had to be a white lamb purely throughout in order to be unblemished? Of course not. We never consider blemishes in that way. That's just a stray hair here and there or whatever. And the guy just said, you know, yeah, you know, we can't use these. They're the wrong color, not biblical. This ties directly into the Temple Institute and the Temple issue that I have, because here's what I'm going to say. I mean, you guys aren't going to like this, but they will never, the Temple Institute will never come forward and say, here we go, we have that heifer, we're going to sacrifice it now. My prediction is they'll never do that. They just never will. And even if they did, how would we know they're actually being truthful? I mean, couldn't a guy walk up to it and go, you know what, there's only like a tiny couple of hairs right here, I'll just pluck those out. You know, okay, done. I mean, think about how silly this is. They are leading you along, guys. This is a scam, plain and simple. And you know, again, keep an open mind. Okay, I'm going to be accused of being a, you know, anti-Semite now because I don't accept Judaism as a true religion. These guys, this is a talk show, and I would encourage you guys to go find this one. Carl Gallup's, you know, he's accused of being anti-Semite and blah blah blah, but he's talking to a messianic rabbi, okay, a guy from Israel who's a Christian, and he's talking about the Temple Institute and how flat out they believe that this is all a giant scam. And the ironic thing about all this, it's kind of funny. Evangelical, pre-trib, premillennial dispensationalists created this entire thing. This whole idea of the need for a temple, a third temple, so that the end times can come, is entirely created by these people. And then they are then the victims of their own creation, because these guys said, okay, yeah, we'll give you a temple. We'll form this Temple Institute, and you can give us money all day long, and we'll take your money, because we're going to build the temple. So they're falling victim to their own creation, which is sad and ironic. But here, let's play what they had to say. Again, you guys don't have to accept this, but they went to Israel. These two guys, one a rabbi and one an American, and they started asking questions of this Temple Institute. By the way, anybody can go over to Israel and visit the Temple Institute tourist attraction and ask these same questions if you doubt this.
Proved it to me. You took me into the Temple Institute, and we talked to the people and said, how much money do you need? Well, give us all you can, because we presented ourselves. We didn't tell them we were rich businessmen from America, but that's how we acted. And we just basically said, look, if I was going to write you a check right now so that you could start the temple, and you could,
I didn't say start. I said ready in 2-3 months.
Yeah,
I want
get
to
it ready to go.
3 months.
That's
How
right.
much money do you
What
need?
do you need? And just give us as much as you can. No, give us a figure. We'll, you know, because we might want to write you a check right now. And then they said, well, we got to call the rabbis. And we said, okay. So they waited. We came back later. They talked to somebody, a rabbi, they said. And they said, he said, just as much as you can give. And we said, well, but wait a minute. We need a figure. I mean, and then they said, well, you know, it's not just the money, it's the politics. And we said, okay, so what will it take to change the politics? We need more money. So see, circular reasoning. So The whole thing is about getting money from American tourists, Chinese tourists, and other Christians around the world, Christian tourists who believe they've been taught all their life that the Jews are all the Jews, they all want, the whole nation, they want a temple on the Temple Mount.
And the
you're saying-
Christians are going to do it in the name of Jesus,
Yeah.
thinking they're doing Jesus, Yeshua, a favor.
A favor. That's right. And
So they also point out earlier, and I've heard Amir Safari, okay? Amir Safari is an evangelical Christian. He is a pre-tribber. He believes the rapture is any second. He preaches that we are in the final end of the last days. He has said numerous times, go look it up, I'm not going to do your homework for you. He has said most Jews in Israel are not in favor of having a temple. They are either neutral about it, they don't care, or they are against it because they think it'll cause too many problems. You know, most of the Jews in the world are not religious. They don't care about this stuff. They're not pushing for it. So anybody who tries to tell you that all of Israel wants a temple, they're just misinformed, they're ignorant, or they're lying. Because Amir Safari even admits that they don't want. It's not a common thing. So it doesn't even matter at the end of the day, because my main point is this: if you believe that there will be a temple of God, you are denying what God has already said over and over again. So what's the phrase temple of God mean? Temple of God means it is God's ordained holy temple. It is his building for him to dwell in. That's what the phrase means. When I say there will never be another physical building temple of God, it's because Hebrews says Christ has come by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building. And then, of course, equally so, his blood is greater than the blood of goats and calves. We would all agree with that. And then down here, Christ has not entered into the holy place, the temple made with hands, the temple that where God tore the temple curtain from top to bottom, that separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of it. He tore it in two. Why did he do that? Was that not permanent enough? So in fact, when I ask people this, evangelicals, of this sort, they will say, well, no, it's not really a temple of God in that way. It's just that the Jews believe it's the temple of God. So, okay, so it's not a temple of God then, right? Well, no, it's not a holy temple of God because it's just that they believe it's the holy temple of God. Okay, fine. It's not a temple of God. So let me ask you this. If it's not a temple of God, then how can it be desecrated? How can it have abominations enter into it? The only reason a temple is desecrated and abominated by supposedly the Antichrist, Satan himself in the flesh, the only way that's abomination to God is if that temple is holy to begin with. And I want you to remember something else. It's an abomination that causes desolation. If it's an abomination that causes desolation, what is the desolation? Desolation can mean a number of things, a couple of things: emptying of something or destroying something. Okay? So here's the verse they always quote. When you therefore shall see the abomination that causes desolation, that's what the of means. Something is so abominable that the thing that it's desecrating is destroyed or emptied. Okay? And this is what they say is going to be the third temple. Again, you can't abominate something that isn't holy to start with. And everyone would agree that this actually is not going to be a holy place. And I just showed you in Hebrews that buildings are no longer temples to God. The church, the body of Christ, is the temple of God, where he will dwell forever. And God has come in the flesh, Emmanuel, God with us. So the presence of God in the temple is no longer necessary because the greater presence of God, Emmanuel himself, has come. By the way, I want to also point out many, many Jews who do want to see a temple someday, or at least know the teaching about it, they say the temple has to be built by the Messiah. It will come out of heaven, and it will come from heaven to earth. It won't be built by people. It'll be built by the Messiah himself miraculously. So what do you do with that? So what's the desolation, guys? Mr. Pre-Tribber, who thinks this is coming any second and we're sitting on G waiting on O. Barry Scarborough, what's desolate mean? Well, there's three things it could mean, I've figured. The first meaning is it's destroyed, taken down to rubble. The second meaning is it's cleared out, it's empty. It becomes a shell, just a building with nothing in it, so it's emptied. And the third thing is God himself, his presence is removed, and that's the emptiness of this temple. Well, I've already proven that God himself isn't going to dwell in it in the first place. So that leaves destruction or clearing out. Now, Mr. Evangelical, Mr. Scarborough, who's going to desolate the temple? We are told that the Antichrist is going to stand in it and desecrate the temple. So when it's desolated, who's doing that? Isn't that God? Isn't that God punishing people for allowing this abomination to occur? It's God himself, right? So is God going to miraculously clear the temple of all of its artifacts? Is he going to command the Jews of the day to take all the artifacts out and make it an empty building? Okay, maybe. Or will God destroy the temple and turn it to rubble again? He's already done that once. He's going to take that third temple and desolate it to the ground, cause it to become rubble, either miraculously or through some other means, like, I don't know, the Roman army again is going to come and destroy it again. If either way, it's God that does it. But it can't be, because why would God punish people for desecrating a building that's already unholy? Don't you think he might destroy the building? I mean, like the abomination. Don't you think he might just destroy everything because the temple is built? If they ever build a building in Israel and call it a temple of God, here's my prediction. And by the way, this might happen. I'm not saying they won't try, because they have tried. Do you guys know that? Do you guys know they actually tried to build a temple over there 1,000 years ago or so? It's already been tried. Do you know what happened, according to history? Every time they tried to dig the trenches to put the temple up, the ground would cave in. They said fire would come out of the ground so that the people trying to build would be burned, or like, oh no, they had to get away from it. Interesting. Not sure if that's true, but that's my prediction. If they try to do this, either God is going to miraculously intervene and stop it, as he's already done. He's been stopping it for all these years, other ways. If they actually end up building a temple and say, okay, this is where God's going to dwell now, they are defying Jesus Christ and the true Emmanuel by doing that. And I believe God will destroy that building miraculously. Just something to think about.